Nancy Wilson Oursler graduated from the Maryland State Teachers College at Towson in 1962 with a bachelor's degree in early childhood education. Mrs. Oursler taught for 2.5 years in Baltimore County Public Schools and 15 years in a private school kindergarten. These are her reflections.
Mrs. Oursler, thank you for sharing with us your thoughts about your teacher preparation here at Towson University and your subsequent career in education. This will add greatly to our understanding of the evolution of teacher education at Towson across time. And I think the best place to begin is probably in the beginning. So the first thing I'd love for you to share with us is a little bit about your early social context, where you grew up, what kinds of thoughts you were having about a career, when you thought teaching would be the right place for you, and why you chose Towson University.
I'm glad to. I grew up in the city, outskirts of the city, almost in the county, and in a wonderful little community of Howard Park in Maryland. My mother had been a teacher, and I kind of always thought that somewhere along the line I was kind of going to fall into this, but I wasn't really sure. I kind of, as I got into my high school years, I thought, I don't want to do that. I think I want to go into nursing. Well, I was a pinky at one of the local hospitals, and I soon found out that that really wasn't where I needed to go. And with my father's encouragement, he decided that I was going to Towson. And I'm very glad that he, pushed me in that direction. I had spent years working with children in church, teaching Sunday school, and with smaller children, with the younger children, which I really seemed to know that's where my niche was going to be. And so when I came to Towson, then I knew exactly what program I was going to be enrolled in.
Okay. So you came to Towson as a teacher candidate, and you already had some sense that you wanted to work with younger children.
Yes.
So when it was time to sort of decide on your age emphasis, you elected what was then called
kindergarten primary. And that was, you could only teach up until I think it was the end, third grade. And you were a primary teacher, so therefore it was great. It was wonderful, and I had wonderful instructors, and it wasn't until really you got into almost your junior year that you could hone in on the program that you were hoping to make go. Of course, up until then, you're just taking the English and the art and all the other general classes. I was on campus here. There was the Lytle Lee Toll School, and I was very fortunate to have been chosen to do my student teaching at Lytle Lee.
Absolutely.
Under the advice of Alice Holden, who was at that time I think one of the teachers of the year. She was wonderful. She was absolutely a very, very much what I needed at that time, so inspiring. And her method and her way of working with young children in the kindergarten was absolutely wonderful. She had a relationship with these children that was absolutely precious. I mean, each child was absolutely a gift to her, and I think she kind of hopefully instilled that in me, that each child was an individual, each child was a gift, and you did what you could to make this child as comfortable and as happy as possible. The little children are hard, because 5-year-olds want to cry and want mommy and don't want to come in and don't want to put their boots on and don't want to do many things. And her way of trying to get that across was wonderful. I was in awe of her. I really was.
Nancy, did you get to observe at Lightly Tall or other places
Oh,
before
yes.
you actually did student
I
teaching?
did. I was down the road here on York Road, and I do not remember the name of the school any longer. Robert something, I believe. But anyway, doesn't matter. But you did that. You went around to various other schools, other colleges, and you even went to other colleges actually to see how things were done, and it was very inspiring, And so when I finally I did my student teaching, as I say, at Lightly Tall, and also at Arlington Elementary, which is over in the northwest part of the city.
And what did that entail, your student teaching? Did you, when you were at Lightly Tall, did you sort of observe initially?
You did.
And then gradually you're sort of eased into
Exactly.
the teaching?
Yes, exactly. You were given, you probably the first week or so, you just kind of got the feel of how things were run and how things were presented in that class, and then she might say to you, well, I want you to work up a lesson plan. Lesson plans were what you had to do. And no matter what, you had to have definite lesson plans. And she might say to you, well, now tomorrow you'll take opening. And this is what you will do. You will do the flag. You will do whatever entailed with opening. And then maybe the next week you can do opening again, and now you're going to do the center or whatever. So it was very kindergarten, primary. Before I even graduated, was totally different than when I got along in years, because you couldn't really. It was playtime. It was playtime. You didn't do anything really structure, because that came later. You didn't do that with 5-year-olds. You waited until you got into first grade before you were allowed to present math or reading. Some types of, it just wasn't done. You weren't supposed to.
So that was, was there a belief developmentally that this was not good for children who were 5?
Yes, there really was. There really was. They I think, really thought that play was much more than the social skills and interaction between teachers and adults and children, and getting along and learning how to be a part of the world were much more important than whether or not you could read.
Did you teach ABCs at least?
We did. We did teach ABCs. We did teach our colors. We did teach some order of things, but generally it was play, and there was nap. There was always nap. It didn't matter when you always had nap and you always had snack. So all these things were, but again, this are social skills, learning how to deal with your family and deal with just be away from parents.
Absolutely.
Just be away from the familiar.
Yes.
And trying to get into. Now we have preschool, and there wasn't preschool then.
No.
You went to kindergarten. You didn't go to, and there were very few kindergartens.
So kindergarten was not required by the state?
Oh no, it was not required by the state at all.
And kindergarten was only half a day?
Yes. So there were 2 kindergartens. So we did a morning and an afternoon.
So that certainly has changed.
Yes. But it was the little things, like your left from your right, and your, the things that maybe were not taught at home. And the thing.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, and interacting with other 5-year-olds.
Mm-hmm. I think today what we taught in kindergarten, they teach to the 3-year-olds.
Uh-huh. So
we've
moved
just
that up.
we've moved that all the way up.
And for you, this was, not only were you doing your student teaching, but you had gotten married.
Yes.
So you had a
yes.
very busy life.
I did.
Even
I
while
did.
you were still completing your degree.
Correct.
Yes. So that's...
And at times that was very difficult.
I'm sure.
And very difficult. But the support I had from my husband, who was also a teacher, really helped me. Really helped me. But it was difficult at times.
Yes. So you finished your student teaching. Are you feeling confident about?
Oh yes, I'm feeling
You're ready.
I'm feeling good about it. Can hardly wait for graduation to get that out of the way and get on and with teaching.
So where did you go? What was your first school assignment? You two had a 2-year obligation to teach?
I did have a 2-year obligation to teach. It's very interesting how the first assignment came along. Now I know you have to make application everywhere and show resumes and show everything. We didn't do any of that. We didn't have any of that to do. The kindergarten primary group graduates were asked to go to a room in one of the rooms in the college, and there they presented the availability of openings
Oh my heavens.
at this school, at that school, at other schools. Did you want to go here? Did you want to go there? Brand new school, Ruxton Elementary, was opening up in the fall. It hadn't even been finished being built.
Oh my heavens.
And so, where do you want to go? Do you want to teach first grade? You want to teach second grade? You want to teach 6th grade? Where do you want to go? So I put my hand up and I said, I want to teach first grade. That was my job. And I got it. Got there and found out that there were two other first grades.
Oh.
And they were full grades. They had, I don't know, 28, 29, 30 children in each one of those. Well, we had more first graders than we needed, and we had space for. So this beautiful faculty room that they had built became my room. They put blackboards, the chalkboards in there, and it had a bathroom in there, and it had 14 little children. And because I kind of think I had the younger group, the youngest ones of them all. So, and they were wonderful. It was such a pleasure because it was good for me because I was starting out with a very small group.
Yes.
And it was just great. It was just great. I didn't have to deal with, 30 children as opposed to 14. So that was lots of fun. Lots of fun.
And the room was okay, was adequate?
Yes, it was a little small in spots, but we managed just fine. And as I say, it was a very nice room.
And what do you remember about that initial year of teaching?
It being a challenge. I mean, it definitely was a challenge because I was, I think, a little bit more geared to kindergarten. Even though my other student teaching experience had been a first grade. I wanted to take these children and move them right along, and they were, as I said, I think they were the younger group, and a lot of them weren't quite ready. So it was a challenge to, bring them up to where I thought they should be.
And I guess in your description of kindergarten, that this was mostly play and socialization.
Exactly.
I guess then the responsibility for all day for a first grade would suddenly be more academic.
Yes.
So that was that expectation probably from kindergarten to first grade changed
Yes, yes.
abruptly in terms
Yes, it
of
did.
expectation for the kids and the teachers.
And they weren't, a lot of them were not ready.
Uh-huh.
A lot of them, were, as I say, young, and they just weren't ready to sit in a desk and do paperwork and do the things that they needed to do
All day.
all day.
So
was very hard.
you were responsible then for reading or pre-reading or
Yeah.
reading readiness? or-
Yeah, we did reading, very large books. That's the way they taught reading back then. We had huge books, on stands, and that's the way they taught reading. And math, and we had lots and lots of little extras, how to do math with counting sticks and all of that kind of things. It's
What we call manipulatives
yes,
today.
yes, and it was quite a challenge. But I loved these children. They were just precious, each one of them, and so I really. And then the next year, they decided that maybe the faculty room was not quite adequate for what I needed, and we, believe it or not, brand new school, we were annexed to Towson Elementary.
Oh, funny.
The entire first grade was annexed to Towson Elementary, and I had a full classroom then.
Well, I guess they thought you were capable and ready for
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
And so you stayed there for...
Another year and a half. I was at Towson Elementary, and then I was expecting my first child, so I decided. So they they decided for me that it was time for me to go.
And that was sort of a policy.
Yes,
for
definitely a policy, and
for the county system.
Yes, they did not want you to be in that position at all. I mean, I guess they considered it.
And was there a rule that said when you're 5 months pregnant you have to leave, or
I think
when
there
you start
probably.
to show, or?
I think there probably was. I stayed until my daughter was born in May, and I stayed until what was considered the January break. Then the semester break, and then that was what happened with that only. But now I know it's quite different.
So you stayed home and you were still teaching, obviously, but with your own.
Well,
your
I
own
did. I
child
stayed
and
home. I
student.
stayed home. I had two daughters, and when my second daughter was 3. The church that we were attending, they asked me if I would like to come and substitute in their daycare, in their early childhood program. And I said, sure, I think I'll give that a try. And then I sent my daughter to the program, and of course she went on, and I stayed for the next 16 years.
There you go.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was a preschool in a church setting. So there was a lot of a religious type background as well. I mean, the children were from all walks of, all different kinds of children. We had a lot of Jewish children, and it was just wonderful. These children, but there again, because we were a private kindergarten, we were able to do much more with the reading, with the math, with building their skills.
So how old did the children have to be to come? Could they start at age 3, or?
Well,
did
they
have to
started
be
at
5?
age 3, and by the time I left, they were down to age 2. So, yeah, it was quite interesting. But the 5-year-olds we had a tremendous program. We finally introduced workbooks and the things that the children really needed. We had centers. We had we worked every bit as hard, if not harder, than maybe I would have worked in the public school system.
But that was a kindergarten experience.
Yes,
I mean,
it was a
just
kindergarten. Yes,
private
it was a kindergarten experience. It was not first grade.
Uh-huh. And
But-
then they would move into some other school.
Yes, they
private.
would go to public school. Yes, that's correct.
So you might have children who had spent several years there
Yes, oh yes.
before they went on to first grade.
Most of them spent at least 3 years there
Uh-huh.
before they went on to first grade.
And you did that for, what did you say?
For about 16 years.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So yes, and I loved that. That was wonderful. And the children were, the parents were, and the children were just wonderful to work with. They would do anything. Of course, everything was kind of, being in a church setting, you didn't have a lot of the facilities, and you didn't have a lot of the hands-on type of things that you had to have for your teaching.
Was that
Equipment.
a handicap or?
Well, it was, because first of all, we got paid practically nothing.
I'm sure.
And then when we would need something, it would have to come out of pocket. Most of it, like the workbooks and that kind of thing, did not. But if we wanted to do any kind of a special project, it was up to you, to pay for
To
it.
foot the bill.
Yeah. So, but it was a wonderful experience. It was a wonderful kindergarten. Still is. Still in existence,
Oh, it
and
is.
still is. Yes.
So it still remains a private kindergarten.
It
Do you
does.
know if it's a full day now?
I do not think they do kindergarten anymore,
Ah.
because it's a requirement for Baltimore County that children go full-day kindergarten.
Uh-huh.
But up until a couple of years ago, it was not.
Right.
So they still had the private kindergarten.
Uh-huh. Very nice. Tell us, if you will, a little bit about your perspective on teaching as a career, given the experience that you had. What would you say to individuals who would be interested in becoming teachers?
Well, it's just the most rewarding profession, I think, because it's so personal, because you make it personal for the children. And I would encourage anybody who has any interest at all. My granddaughter has expressed an interest to come to. I'm trying to get her to come to Towson, but I don't know how successful I'm going to be. But she has definitely expressed an interest, and is doing what they do in the high schools now with the little internships in the high school. For early education is what she wants to go into. So I think anybody who expresses any interest in being a teacher, it's just so rewarding. I mean, of course there are times when you think, well, I never got to that child. I never was able to do what I really wanted to with that child. And I think teaching has changed in that I think class sizes and the impersonality sometimes of the teaching, as the technology, you just can't really know what these children are thinking and how they are expressing themselves. I kind of think that technology is going to be our downfall in the long run, because these children can no longer communicate with each other. They have to text, or they have to do other things. And I think that's a lost art when you had the communication with children through teaching. And, we did everything we could to make children comfortable with the teacher.
Yes.
Because children, especially little children, are scared to death of their teacher. And you try to do everything that you could to make them, because they can't learn if they're fearful.
Right.
And if you tried to do everything you could to make them comfortable and happy. And if a child cried all day, which I have had children, I had a child that cried from September till December, every single day, most of the day. It was very challenging. I didn't know how to get her on board. And it was tough.
Do you remember what finally turned her around?
I think the child was she just finally wore out from crying, but she was never, ever happy in kindergarten. No matter what we did, no matter how much I tried to bring her, enfold her, and it just didn't work. It just didn't work. She was just a miserable little girl. So.
Well, yeah.
It's that I think is a challenge, but Towson and my experience with Lively Tall, and I think Towson had taught me how to deal with things, how to, of course but then you get all wrapped up in what has to go on with all the paperwork and with all the grading and with all the, and I was never really sure that I gave the kind of grading that I should have, But
I think that's always
it's very difficult,
teachers.
and I think being so young, I mean, you could really see children that had potential, but you could not. Some children were still so shy and still so uncomfortable. You never could quite understand where they were going to go. But
did you ever have students who came back later and
oh yeah,
said, "Hi, you were my kindergarten teacher"?
yes, I did.
So
I did.
occasionally you get to see what
I do.
what
I
happens
do.
later
Yes.
in life.
Yes, I've had a couple of experiences where children have come back as adults and or young teenagers, or and just been very, very, and knew me right away, and it was that's very exciting too.
With young kids, if you see them in the grocery store,
Right.
supermarket, they're
Yeah.
just astounded that their teacher actually buys groceries.
Yes, that's quite true.
So it's a good career choice, you think?
I think it's a wonderful career choice. No, it's not for everybody, but I think if you have any kind of an interest, it's worth pursuing, and maybe even. And I'm sure there are times when there are people who go into teaching and say, "Oh no," and even graduate with a degree and say, "This is still not for me." But I think once, and as you say, for women, back then it was the way to go. I mean, you were either a nurse, or you were a teacher, or you were a secretary, or you just kind of just where you were channeled. But and I thought, I don't know if I really want to be a teacher. But once I got into it, I knew that this was for me.
Right. It sounds from what you said that your experience at Lively Tall gave you the opportunity to understand that this was a good fit.
Yes, it really did. It really did. And then it was kind of like a privilege to be chosen to go to Lively Tall, and because it was the campus school, and there were, I guess, examples being set, and teachers who were, top-notch teachers conducting these programs, and I felt, oh boy, that's great. I'm going to Lively Tall, and that was great. And as I say, I can remember it like it was yesterday. Many of the things that happened in that classroom.
Nancy, have we forgotten anything? Things that people you remember, or other experiences that you would like to share with us?
Just that all the years that I had, I was in teaching. I knew this was where I wanted to be, and I just could not envision anything else for me once I took up the career, and in many ways wished that I had gone on to maybe further my education and get back into the system. but and my husband was a science teacher and had gone to Towson, as had my mother, and so it was kind of, this is where I needed to be, I think, and was happy that this was my choice. And Towson was wonderful. There were only about, I guess, 1,700 students when I came to Towson, and you knew everybody. You dated, upperclassmen and all of that, and it was just a very friendly, very family-oriented school. It was just wonderful. I thought it was wonderful, and having been passed along to from my mother's point of view, and when it was, of course, much, much smaller, I loved it immediately. I loved it immediately. So, and have had, many, many happy memories of classmates, and of course this is where I met my husband, and so it was all great.
And everybody here at that time was going to become a teacher.
Yes,
pretty much.
Everybody was going to be a teacher.
So,
and my advisor, Dr. McCleary, he was very patient with me. Which is something to be said, because I don't think Dr. McCleary was a very patient person. But he was very good with me and helped me through, some rough spots. And I did have great admiration for him. And the teachers that were here, I thoroughly enjoyed. And if you had a problem and you did not go to them, that was your loss. But if you had a problem and went to them, 9 times out of 10 they could work it out to your advantage, and you had a very good rapport with the faculty. And I don't know if that's just indicative of small schools, or I just can't imagine going to a campus and where you're student number 212. I just can't imagine that because of my personal experiences here with Towson.
And I guess because you were all in education, these could be relationships with each other as students.
Exactly.
That you probably could continue when you went into the professional world.
Oh, yes, yes.
So that you might stay better connected because of...
And we did. I mean, even still today, there are, of course, everyone is older, but you still remember when this person, or you did something with this person, or when this person was in this school, or this was somebody's vice principal or principal, or a teaching assistant, or when you did something together. And there's still a few of us around that enjoyed each other and enjoyed just sitting and talking like this about our experiences. It's great.
Anything else?
I don't know of anything else. I really did love Towson, and I kind of missed a little bit in my senior year being married, but that was great too. But it gives you a little bit of a different perspective. But I did love Towson.
Wonderful.
I really did. And
Nancy, I really appreciate your spending some time with us.
It's been my pleasure, and I've enjoyed doing the interview.
Thank you.
You're welcome.